Golden Gate Course, Lesson 12. By now, if you have studied and practiced this course faithfully, you will have the knowledge that success doesn't come by understanding and practicing only, but through development. Each person, his own magnet. He must first, by casting out inner obstacles, develop this magnetism. Then he can use the existing fundamental laws to draw success to himself. These laws have been in existence always, yet after studying them, some people draw success to themselves immediately and some don't. Why should this be? The laws have been tested and proved sound for countless ages, so the barriers must be in the unsuccessful person, mustn't they? In a few instances, when a student has studied these prosperity laws and has failed, I have been able to see quite clearly what was standing in the way. From the beginning, the person had revealed certain weaknesses, and these continued all through. It would have been useless for me to have pointed these barriers out. He didn't want to know because he didn't want to bother. He wanted to use the prosperity laws from the outside without doing anything at all about his inside. If I had questioned this student, he would have said, "I want prosperity first, and then I shall have time to think of the self-conquest. Why should I make all these efforts? I want to see the reward first." People like this dabble with prosperity laws and get nowhere. Well, I suppose it was all a dream and thought power doesn't exist after all, they decide. Then they go on living life as a non-thinker, as one who labours with the hands and lets the brain be idle, or uses the mind in a routine task without letting the powerful imagination and initiative come into play. Of such people, J.G. Sachs wrote, "Fools will be fools as certain as fate. Men of wisdom, make them your tools. Only that is the use of fools." So you see that all these lessons about inner probing and conquest have been absolutely necessary. Sometimes it may have seemed wearisome to you when you were eager to get on with the practice of prosperity laws, but unless you first develop your inner nature and unleash in the process your magnetic powers, these laws are useless to you. If you fail to bring success by the use of these laws, don't blame prosperity laws themselves. Look within and see where you have a barrier to their working. It may be that you thought build strongly for half an hour a day and then build failure molds for 23.5 hours, grumbling when they are filled with life and become realities in your affairs. Or it may be that you haven't tolerance towards others yet, or that you still hide from truth, not wanting to have a lesser opinion of yourself by knowing the motive beneath your actions, thoughts or words. Or perhaps you lack persistence. Whatever it is, first make your inner life over, and then you can use the existing wonder-working prosperity laws. The other day I was reading about a man who did just this. He had always disliked his job and had spent years in depressing thoughts, imagining that he was doomed to stay in a lowly position all his life. One day he made up his mind that conquest of circumstances came from conquest of self. He was Bruce McClelland, and he wrote his book, Prosperity Through Thought Force, at the beginning of this century. In his introduction, he describes his early attitude of mind as worry, anger, suspicion and hatred, and smarting under a sense of injustice. Then he began to make himself over, gradually eliminating all these inner barriers to success. Within 3 years, he was his own boss, with plenty of money for all needs, a happy home and everything one need wish. In 6 years, he wrote, I moved to Oklahoma, a beautiful land where amid sunshine and flowers we rub shoulders with cowboys, Indians, regular soldiers, gamblers, farmers, thrown together in promiscuous confusion incident to the settlement of a new country. If we want work, we work. If we want play, we play. The exhilaration of freedom reaches its acme of perfection when, on a good horse, we fly across the prairies. As to money, there's enough and to spare. Why spend one's life in amassing a fortune? Look at the fun one misses. Let's get money enough, then look around a bit and see what people and things are like. I would like to tell you where to get this book. It was distributed by Fowler's, but I expect it's long since out of print. However, there are many books just as inspiring, and books will not alone bring you success. Learn the prosperity laws, but learn to clear away the inner barriers too. There are some who try to clear away these inner obstacles and succeed, becoming most attractive people, but they remain poor. There are others who try to use the prosperity laws without clearing away the barriers. These remain poor too. It's only when these two aspects work in harmony that success results. That is why I told you in the last lesson that you must build your detailed plan and use the prosperity laws as well before you can be successful. It is a case of both within and without. So these weeks I suggest that you use your Golden Gate affirmation night and morning to develop your use of the prosperity laws, and that you use secret exercise number 4 or choose from those given you so far with the idea of clearing away barriers within. Having read the last 2 or 3 lessons, you will see how more clearly I developed this work through the use of my faith. I know that you will find it absorbing. Glimpses into the secrets of success are. In those days, while that waste piece of overgrown land was being turned into this teaching centre, I used to write reports of it in BWN, Bernard's Weekly News. I knew that students' own faith would be stimulated by this first-hand account, and it certainly was. But a few of them still didn't realise that I was working with faith alone and was not asking for donations. When I mentioned one of the new huts, the latter ones were larger than the first, measuring 16 feet by 8, they were very kindly sent in gifts of money, saying, "This is for the fund you are starting for the new hut." Writing back to thank them warmly for their generosity, I had to explain that the full amount of money needed for the hut was already there, waiting to be paid to the firm as soon as the erection of the hut was completed. That whenever I expanded, I drew by faith the supply needed for the expansion first, and only then did I give the order. This was how the "Thank You Sincerely" leaflet came to be written, see Lesson 9, and how the student fund came into existence. I used the fund to pay for or extend Bernard's Weekly News subscriptions for old people among the students who were finding it difficult to manage their pensions, or for people who were in hospital or temporarily unable to pay their subscriptions. They are always delighted to hear that the magazine will continue through the generosity of other students. More free literature is sent to inquirers who are interested but unable to start the course. Once the huts were in full use, I had to think of a place to store paper so that it could be kept dry. After consulting various firms, I decided on a concrete building lined inside with hardboard, with open racks on which to stack the packets of paper so that air could circulate around them. This has proved most successful. It is always crammed from floor to ceiling with paper and printed books, also many other things such as spare typewriter cases, electric lamps, plugs and flex, surplus heaters, etc. While the concrete building was being built, I decided that I might as well have an extra room, so about a third of it was divided by a wall. The result looks rather like a small cottage with 2 entrances, one having a little porch. This room with the porch is my office. The building is painted white. Thus the teaching centre grew. All the offices are linked by concrete paths, and between them there is grass. I employ a man to mow this, so it all looks very pleasant. The huts are painted brown with white frames. There are 2 small sycamore trees and smaller trees all around. Inside the offices, of course, are desks and chairs, still shelving to hold duplicated papers, printed and duplicated lessons and books. There are usually 12 typewriters. The newest ones for stencil cutting as they wear out. We dispose of the oldest and get new ones, so they move down in an order of usefulness. There are 2 electric duplicators of modern design with the latest gadgets and improvements. There's an addressing machine, a folding machine, an electric stapler, an electric paper shredder. There's an electric kettle, a toaster and a grill. A sink with hot and cold water, storage heaters, radiators and radios. All this has grown from that piece of waste ground. Everything to pay for it has come through thought building and looking confidently for its results. By visualizing, by using the magnet of thought power, all things are possible to him that believeth. Remember, change your thoughts and you change your circumstances. You have 6 more weeks to practice prosperity thinking. By then, it should be a habit.